Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're logging in. Thank you for joining us for our Windows in the Cloud Ask Microsoft Anything. So I am your host, Christian Montoya. Thank you for coming back, especially for everyone that's about to celebrate some December holidays. Thank you for spending some time today with us. So before we jump into everything, I do have some awesome guest experts with me today that I'd love to introduce as we dive into the topics of the Ignite recap. So, David Belanger, if you want to
Hi,
introduce yourself
folks.
first.
My name is David Belanger. I am one of the principal technical program managers on the Windows Cloud Experiences team. And lately, I've been leading some of our identity and authentication investments, which we'll be talking a little bit more about. And I'll turn it over to our second David today, David Wells.
Hello, David Wells. I'm a technical program manager on Windows 365 Link that was recently announced at Ignite, focusing on manageability and security scenarios. I will pass it on to Alina.
Hi, I'm Alina, and I'm a product manager on the Windows OS integration side. I currently work on all boot experiences, Windows 365 boot, as well as Windows 365 Link. And Sam?
Hi everyone, Sam Tolamat. I am a principal PM lead on the Windows Cloud Experiences team, and my team and I work on both cloud provisioning and deployment across AVD and Windows 365, as well as Windows 365 Frontline.
Awesome. Yeah, so for folks listening, you probably heard a lot of buzzwords there that might have rung some bells if you joined us for Ignite. So just as a recap before we get into the question and answers, if you have any questions, post them now. If not, hopefully the recap will spark some ideas. So from all of Ignite, we had a couple of Azure Virtual Desktop announcements. One of the first ones was App V support in App Attach, which includes also extended support phase. So go ahead and take a look at the ak.ms/avd/app-attach app-v for the blog that our awesome Jim Moyle posted. Another AVD announcement was the enhanced host pool management, which has multiple features. It has session host configuration and update. It has creating and deleting session hosts at scale, and coming soon in preview is ephemeral OS disks. So take a look at the ak.ms/avd/enhanced host pool management. I think that was our awesome Jesse that posted that blog. And then another announcement, not with AVD, but for Windows and Windows 365, is our collaboration with MetaQuest. This is super cool. You can connect to your cloud PC or your full Windows 11 machine using the MetaQuest headset. There's some requirements there in terms of the hardware and software. That's just rolling out to preview. So that's ak.ms/w365 MetaQuest. Check that out for more details. And now for the announcements that are, really specific to the people here involved. We have Frontline shared, as Sam mentioned earlier. Frontline was originally just, a dedicated. Now you have a shared model. That blog / your question and answers here. Hopefully we'll get that covered. But in the meantime, take a look at ak.ms/w365 Frontline blog. What David mentioned earlier about identity, authentication, and security. We also have a great blog post covering recent investments that include MAM support on iOS and preview on Android, FIDO and passkeys on macOS and iOS, and then also unidirectional clipboard redirection. So you can choose which way that content goes. So again, that blog post is ak.ms/w365/elevate security blog. That blog, I think, was by Fratique on our team. So much contribution here. And then that last big one that both David Wells and Alina mentioned was Windows 365 Link. That was very exciting. We announced public preview. You can see all of the details about you can see all the details there at ak.ms/Windows 365 Link public preview for this device that boots you directly into your cloud PC. So, good whirlwind. I love how much content we have at Ignite. So, I think we're we can kind of get into it. I know that, again, there's so many investments that we make throughout the year that all of us work so hard for to make sure it's prime time and ready for you all, IT admins, customers, listeners, to use and start testing out after Ignite. So maybe the first question, and this is for Sam, how is the new shared mode in Frontline different from the original Windows 365 Frontline?
Great question. Thanks, Christian. So those of people who are familiar with Windows 365 Frontline, we launched it about a year ago, and we really launched it with the target in mind for people who potentially work on shifts, have non-overlapping schedule, part-time, but it was really primarily this 3-to-1 model where with one license you get 3 cloud PCs, and each of those cloud PCs are personalized, persistent for that user. We're just shutting them down when they're not being in use, and that gives you the ability to kind of flexibly increase the amount of people who are on Frontline or on a cloud PC in your organization. So we're calling what we've released to date dedicated mode, and we've added shared mode on top. And to your question, what shared mode really is another way for you to provide more access to users in your organization to cloud PCs, where in this instance, the cloud PC would be more designed for the task rather than the person. And so you're not actually creating now a cloud PC for Christian and a cloud PC for Sam and a cloud PC for David. You're saying, I'm going to create a shared cloud PC that's maybe the training cloud PC, and I'm going to make it available for the 100 users in my organization or the 1,000 user in my organization that actually need a training cloud PC, and then they're going to log in, do their training, and finish their training. And every time a user signs out of shared mode, the data is removed. So it's completely basically designed for that specific task with the apps that are needed, with data being removed from the user profile as the user logs off. And so that's a big difference, and that difference enables a couple of things. One, it allows you to provide these purpose-driven really cloud PCs for users who may need a cloud PC for a much shorter period of time. We've heard scenarios like folks who have got retail workers and have machines in the back office that they need to access to check inventory sometimes, or IT personnel who just need a machine occasionally to just log into and access some privileged access related stuff. So lots of different use cases, and it really is included in the Frontline offer today. And so you can try it as a mode. And a lot of our customers were super excited about the fact that they can go back and forth between dedicated and shared. And based on the scenario in their organization, they can decide, do I want a persistent personalized machine for that user? So I can set that up for dedicated. We continue to recommend that anytime a user is going to be on the machine for a prolonged period of time, right? So they need their own apps, they need their own data, they're on that machine regularly. But anytime we're talking about scenarios where the users who are on the machine very briefly, and it's much more related to what they want to finish in terms of completing a task or doing the apps, shared is really a great option to expand access in a cost-effective way.
Cool. And Sam, I think one thing I want to maybe clarify and ask for folks listening, did you say that if folks have Frontline today, they would now have access to the Frontline in shared mode?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So if you have access to Frontline today, you'll go to the provisioning policy and you'll be able to say 2 modes that show up, and we automatically choose the dedicated mode because that's what you've provisioned. And then, with those same licenses, you can actually enable shared. Now, one thing I want to clarify as well with this question, which I think is helpful, with dedicated, because we're giving you a personalized machine per person, every license is giving you, the 1 to 3, essentially 3 cloud PCs. With shared, in this model today, every license is essentially giving you a shared PC. But what happens is that you've got a collection of devices that you can have to a much larger collection of users. It's still one user at a time, but imagine much more a scenario like if you've got a lab in a university, and I'm just giving that example because all of us have been there, and so we know what that looks like. You've got 10 machines, and you may have 1,000 students that come to these machines at different times, but you just got 10 machines. You bought those 10 machines, you set them up, you've got the apps on them, and people can come and go, and you just figured out that, what, I don't think I have more than 10 people at the same time using this, and so I'm going to buy these 10 machines, and I'm going to set them up so that any of the 10,000 of the 1,000 students that I have can just log in. And so that's really the concept of shared, is a collection of machines to a much larger collection of users. And it's every time a user is logging in, we remove their data. And so it's in the VDI world is considered, a lot of people are pretty familiar with like more non-persistence, but the way we've been doing that is pretty different because we're kind of merging some concepts between MDM and VDI.
Right. Cool. Yeah, thanks for that overview, Sam. I think that will spark some questions to come later. So yeah, thanks for the overview, and then folks can check out the blog. I want to go on to the next question. I think this one's probably for David Belanger from X. When can we expect MAM on Android to go GA? Are there any new features being added between preview and GA?
Yeah, thanks for the question, X. I just wanted to start to also mention, like Christian mentioned before, so we did go generally available with MAM on iOS. So just wanted to highlight that again. And that's already fully available for folks. And then we also announced the public preview of MAM on Android. So thank you for your question for that. We're not planning on adding any major new features for MAM on Android between now and the GA. The main thing is at this point, the Android client itself is currently still in public preview. So MAM, with that in mind, is also considered as public preview, same as the client. And we plan to declare kind of general availability of MAM on Android at the same time as the client itself goes generally available in the first half of the next calendar year.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. From LinkedIn, can we use Windows 365 Link with AVD? It looks like probably not, but are there plans to extend or include that? So I don't know, Alina or David Wells, if you guys want to take it.
Yeah,
you want to take it, Alina?
Sure. That's a really good question. We got that a lot. So this is a purpose-built device specifically tailored to the Windows 365 Cloud PC. So currently we do not have any plans on the roadmap for AVD at the moment, but it does connect to enterprise and pairs really nice with the Frontline licenses and will be supported for business pretty soon as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I know that, Sam, I know Alina worked pretty closely with your team to make sure we got Frontline and Frontline in shared mode all set up. So that was very exciting for us to all land together at Ignite.
Thank you for that.
Let's see. Here's a comment from Tech Community for Windows 365 Link. This sounds intriguing, and I know VDIs from the past. How does everyone plan to handle situations where internet connectivity fails beyond the redundancies in place?
I can maybe take a stab to add a little bit of that. Yes, Windows 365 Link, since its sole intention is to connect to a Windows 365 Cloud PC, internet is a requirement. There is some level of work that actually does happen within Link to try to do fast reconnect for intermittent outages and things of that nature, to try and streamline. But I would completely concur with the comment. If you have no internet, the Windows 365 Link device is probably not going to satisfy needs you have.
Yeah, and David, coming from the security lens too, like you mentioned that its only purpose is to connect to a cloud PC. Is one of the goals just to also not store any or basically very little data on the actual device?
Yes, the device really does two things. It authenticates you against Entra ID and then lands you on your cloud PC through an integrated RDP client, and that is it. There is no ability for you to install local applications. There's no need to, because your full desktop experience is in the cloud PC. There's no local users with administrative rights. All management of the device is remote via Intune. So it really is, from an end user perspective, the way I like to think about it is the end user shouldn't really even kind of know or understand what's under the covers of this Windows 365 Link device. It just should feel, and their desktop experience that they're having via the cloud PC should feel as if it was some other local device.
Right. Cool. I think one more question for you on the Link device. Can it be powered from a single USB-C cable? Just think, and then from the tech community, it says, just thinking about a use case. Someone else in the comments mentioned portable use where home and office have a fixed USB dock, screens, etc. installed.
So at this time, it is not powered via USB-C. It does have one USB-C port on it. It's not powered by it. And the thing around like docking stations and things like that, the one thing, going back to some of the security aspects of the Link device, it only comes with class drivers included within the OS. So, which will support most things, keyboard, mice, cameras, things like that. But if you have very specialized docking stations that maybe require specific drivers, or there's even one out there that had specific administrative applications that should be installed on the device, things like that probably will not function with the Windows 365 Link. But of course, also, this is the kind of stuff we want to hear and understand and get information in through our public preview to see where there are frictions that may be too much for.
Perfect. Yeah, I know that you're running a public preview channel because there's only so many devices that ship out right now. So you can, for folks that are using Link, can put feedback through that channel. But also, as a plug for any other Windows 365 feedback, you can publish your feedback and/or feature requests at aka.ms/w365feedback. Sweet. And then we, folks here and also our teams also look through and triage this. So I want to do that shameless plug. All right, let's see. David, wow. Again, two Davids. I'm not used to this. David Belanger, this is probably for you. What are the prerequisites for the clipboard redirection or the unidirectional clipboard redirection?
Yep, good question. So for the new, there's two. So clipboard redirection has been there for quite a while. So for that one, it's pretty easy to use. And for both kind of the AVD side, you can control that either through the RDP properties, or there's also group policies and Intune policies that are available to turn it on and off for both AVD and Windows 365. And then more specifically, if we go also with the new unidirectional clipboard redirection, which is what we announced at Ignite, that one, because it's a newer feature, you do need to make sure that the remote machine you're connecting to, so either the cloud PC or the session host in AVD, has the latest Windows updates installed that brings in the functionality for the universal unidirectional clipboard. So that's for kind of the session host side. And then it's also, there's also ways to control it through group policies, similar to the standard clipboard redirection. Separate from that, from the client side, all of our clients at this point have been updated to support unidirectional clipboard, except for our Android client, which is still in public preview. So we're still working on adding unidirectional clipboard in there. But otherwise, as long as you're running the latest version of any of our other clients, kind of web client, Windows, Mac OS, and iOS, you'll be able to also leverage the unidirectional clipboard from that perspective. So that's kind of the key prereqs to do that. And those are also all listed in our public documentation, where it explains all the different redirection types that we support and kind of how to enable them.
Nice. And for the iOS and Android, how does that work with MAM? Is it just like most secure option sort of plays out, or how does that work?
Definitely, generally the most restrictive configuration will win, essentially. So when you configure through Intune or group policies, those are server-side group policies. So if Clipboard is turned off entirely, or if one of the directions is turned off, that will generally take effect. If it's enabled on the Cloud PC or the session host and the group policy level, you still have an option in MAM, for example, for iOS, to also block Clipboard redirection. And then you'll be able to control it that way on a more kind of per device or per user basis. So you've got a little bit of control there depending what you're trying to do. But again, the most restrictive will always win. So if you as an admin turn off Clipboard redirection, an end user can't just turn it back on. So you can keep your environment secure, or with unidirectional Clipboard, depending on your use case, you can you can either protect the session host, so data from coming in, viruses and things like that, or you can also, if you block, again, the traffic going to your session host or Cloud PC, or you can do the reverse. If you're trying to prevent data egress for your sensitive enterprise data, you would want to enable Clipboard, unidirectional Clipboard redirection and prevent the user from copying data from their Cloud PC to their local machine, but still have them be able to either upload some text or content. So you've got an option there depending which protection you're trying to put in place.
Got it. Cool. Yeah, I was gonna call out that David Wells would probably be like, "Yeah, we love security," but at the same time, it's like, well, it doesn't matter for the Clipboard redirection because there is nothing local. So, haha.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Another question we have. This one, I think, back to you, Sam. Is dedicated mode the same concept of VDI? Only this time around, the device is dedicated. Can this also run for multiple users with directories in Microsoft Active Directory?
Okay.
A lot of questions here.
So dedicated mode is what I had just talked about, which already exists in Frontline today before we even released shared. And it's really actually not the same concept of VDI in a lot of ways, because it's just a personal desktop similar to Windows 365 that is just shut down automatically when it's not in use. I think perhaps maybe the person is trying to understand how to relate that to VDI. And if you want to relate that to VDI, it's like a personal desktop, right? That's assigned to a very specific user. In terms of how can I test, preview it when that's available? So dedicated mode is already available. It's been available for about a year when we released Windows 365 Frontline. We just didn't call it dedicated at the time because we didn't have another mode. We now have an additional mode called shared, and so we're kind of referring to the existing functionality as dedicated. And if you would like to test it and preview it, it's both dedicated mode and shared mode are already available. So contact your sales team and they can get you a trial and you can try both and see what fits your use case better.
Yeah, I think Sam, back to the dedicated mode. I feel like the part that, at least when we've been talking about it, the part that really resonates there is both enterprise and frontline. Those licenses offer, the frontline specifically dedicated mode. It's really just your regular Cloud PC. You're just you said earlier shift workers, right? Like, that these folks, you're never gonna have more than, let's say, maybe 10 nurses on schedule at the same time. And so you're really able to say, okay, here's your frontline device. And that way, since we're only going to max 10, then you're always going to have access to your device, and we can lower our costs because we have that sort of predictability.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in a lot of ways, Frontline is, although the name is Frontline, and we do know that there's a lot of Frontline use cases, it's really a broader umbrella that's targeted at kind of limited use scenarios or shared use scenarios. And typically in the VDI world, people use pooled VDI for that. In the physical world, they use shared devices for that. But when our customers have a lot of users that don't need a machine all the time, they want cost optimizations to enable them to actually allow these users to access. And so we're doing that. And then in addition to it, I would say that now with shared mode 2, we're starting to get into the territory of in addition to the cost optimizations, also optimizing the experience for the user so that they're more productive on these machines. So things like faster login when you're in a machine, installing apps prior to user login. Those are all the types of stuff that we're kind of starting to think about and add.
Yeah, and so for folks listening, I want to link out to the mechanics video you actually did, Sam.
Yes.
Just because for folks that are really curious about that, and that's why you joined the call, maybe you can load that on the side. Dual listen to Sam, and both one in one ear, one in the other. So if you go to ak.ms/w365 frontline mechanics, Sam has a presentation that goes through all of this, and hopefully that does have the summary for you. And so you can continue asking those awesome questions. Okay, so another question we have. So the Autopilot device prep is coming soon for cloud PCs. How will that differ from the Windows client approach? And how can I test or preview it when that's available? I feel like you might be closest to this, Sam.
Yeah, I can take that one. So we are working on Autopilot device preparation profile. Initially, it's going to support shared mode first, and then it's going to be available for both dedicated mode and enterprise. We have a private preview coming soon for shared mode, specifically on the Autopilot device preparation profile. If you already work with Microsoft and have a representative, feel free to ask about potentially your account team seeing how they can nominate you for the private preview. We will also be, rolling out a public preview for it in a few months as well. So if you don't have access to that, look forward to that. And for those who are not familiar with Autopilot device preparation profile, to answer also the question, how is it different from the Windows client? Autopilot generally is a technology that's used to enroll Windows clients, their physical devices, into Intune. Given that cloud PCs are automatically enrolled to Intune, we don't use Autopilot for that part. However, in addition to it, they've built out a technology called device preparation profile that allows an admin to be able to say, prior to the user logging in, I want the following applications or scripts to be run first on the machine before we consider the machine ready. And so we've integrated with that part, and we're going to allow you in provisioning policy in Windows 365 to be able to link to a deployment preparation profile. We're just slowly building that out across shared mode, dedicated, and enterprise. It's coming to shared first because it's really a critical use case for a lot of our customers in that world of, if I'm going to get a bunch of shared machines and I want users to connect to them, and they're getting reset every time, I really want to have the apps available before the user can connect to that machine. And so that's really where we've integrated that, but it's a really exciting feature, and we're super excited to talk about it more as it rolls out into public preview.
Cool. Yeah, excuse my camera for just wanting to reset to full frame. I'm still here. Hello. I am quite a bit smaller apparently. I wanted to, Sam, you talked about the bringing it for the cloud PCs for the frontline and shared mode first. I actually wanted to ask both David Wells and Alina. So Alina, does the Windows 11, the boot feature on Windows 11, is that also going to support the new Autopilot stuff as well? Do you know?
Windows 365 boot.
On Windows 11, yeah. Is that also going to support the new Autopilot technologies?
Yeah, we are looking at that. That is on our to-do list to take a look at that.
Okay. And then David Wells for Link.
Yes.
Is that going to support? Does it support Autopilot right now in public preview?
So it does not. It is, on our roadmap, and we're looking towards adoption of Autopilot device preparation, Autopilot ecosystem, and kind of a focus on the Autopilot device preparation, especially as it grows. But at the end of the day, as Sam kind of called out, like Autopilot device preparation does a lot of great stuff with setting down specific policies, or more important, configuration and app installation and things like that before a person can use a cloud PC. With regard to Link, since there really is no installation of apps, the configuration footprint of Link is also very small. A lot of the awesome features around that isn't that applicable to Link. So we kind of like deprioritized a little bit and said, okay, hey, let's focus on landing some other key scenarios and functionality within Link, and then come to then bring, and look into Autopilot, device preparation scenarios and things of that nature.
Cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There's fewer apps, so
there's very little device preparation that needs to happen with the Link device.
And if the cloud PC is using the preparation profile, then you already got it, so you can use it with Link. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Another question we have: how do passkeys work with Windows 365? So I'll defer to Belanger first for this.
Yes. Let's talk about passkeys. Just for a little bit of background, if you're less familiar with that, there's kind of 3 different parts of the authentication for Windows 365 or AVD. It's kind of the same. There's first, you've got the user has to authenticate to the service itself. That could be to retrieve their resources, or when they initiate a connection, they have to first connect through the Azure, the gateway, basically. Then there's the authentication for the OS. And then there's them wanting to authenticate to applications, website, and all that inside the session. I'll try to keep this somewhat brief. There's more information on our documentation. The part in the middle for the operating system, I would say the easiest for that one, just turn on single sign-on that we've got available. And that will make the entire connection, both the service and the OS, be Entra ID based. So that's part one if you want to fully use passkeys in your environment. Once that's enabled, then the initial authentication to the service is through Microsoft Entra. So we're working very closely with the Entra team to ensure that they support passkeys on all of the platforms where we have clients on. So Windows is already available, has been available for quite a while, and also the web client. At Ignite, we announced essentially the general availability of using FIDO and passkeys on iOS and macOS, both from a brokered device and unbrokered device. If you're less familiar with that, think about brokered devices when you've got the company portal or the Authenticator app installed on your device and you're storing the passkey in there. Unbrokered could be a personal device that you're connecting from, where you just have, let's say, a FIDO key on a USB device or a device key or something like that. So that's fully supported now, macOS and iOS. For Android, we've got work in progress. We're hoping to bring that into general availability in definitely the first half of calendar year 2025. So that will complete kind of most of our first party clients, which will be able to sign into Entra with that. And then for the second part, when you talk about using it inside the session, we have a feature that's called WebAuthn redirection that enables you to use if anything prompts the user again inside the session. Let's say they go to a secure website or an application specifically requires authentication inside the session. That WebAuthn redirection will actually be redirected to the local device where they can use any of their security devices, biometrics, thumbprints, and all that to complete the request. That is currently available today on Windows, and we are working to bring that across all of the other platforms. So hopefully we'll be able to provide more news around that in the first half of calendar year 2025 as we make progress. Our goal is absolutely to support passkey end-to-end on every single one of our platforms. And then the last thing I would say is when you do enable single sign-on, another key benefits is when the user is signed in, any of the if you're familiar with this, any of the claims that they currently had on their local device. So if they signed in with an MFA or phish resistant type of credentials, that will get transferred into their remote session. So they'll generally get single sign-on into the majority of Entra-based applications inside the session also. So in a lot of cases, they won't be prompted again. But again, if they do need to be to re-authenticate, then that's where WebAuthn redirection would come into play. So hopefully that gives you a good overview. If you go, we didn't have the link handy, but if you go into our documentation for the Windows app or the remote desktop client, you'll see a comparison page between the different clients. And there's an authentication section that explains all of that and shows on each of the different client platforms where passkey, smart card, and all the authentication types is available. So that's a good place to go see the different authentication types and depending what you're aiming for in your environment.
Perfect. Yeah, that's very, very thorough. That was a really good summary. I like how you broke it out between the service, the OS, and the apps, because yeah, the apps is the biggest one where we need WebAuth and redirection for any of those challenges. Maybe just to close the loop here, David Wells, can we use passkeys and or security keys to log in?
Yes, I was thinking, oh, I should throw in there when David says client Windows and working on others, and I was like, it works on Link. Well, and part of that is Link is running a small Windows-based OS, so we kind of get a lot of the Windows ecosystem stuff that's applicable, lack of a better word, for free. So yes, passkeys do function. And the Windows 365 Link actually requires that your cloud PCs are configured for single sign-on. The device is really pushing and embracing a passwordless world. And matter of fact, we don't even offer what others might hear as a credential provider for username and password on the sign-in screen of Link. You can either do a web sign-in, which takes you through and enables you to sign in with the multiple methods that Entra supports, or we do also support the security key, FIDO 2 credential provider to sign in directly with like a USB security key that has a passkey on it. Yes, so and WebAuth and redirection does work. So if for some reason like you open it in private browser on your cloud PC and you go to something that needs a passkey authentication, that request will get redirected to a local experience that does kind of pop up on Link, although it doesn't feel any different than it would on Windows 11.
Right. And then Elena too, like for the boot on a Windows 11, like I think we do the same thing too, where depending on which mode you're in, because boot has two modes, right? That also has a shared and a dedicated mode.
Yeah,
we do sharing credentials, right?
Yeah, there's a theme going on here. So, Windows 365 shared mode, similar thing. You'll have to enter your username, and then the same kind of passkeys, and then we have dedicated mode, which came out a little bit later, where you have Windows Hello, and you can sign in with just like the PIN and the face auth and all of that.
Right, and then I think on that one, David Wells, like the current Windows 365 Link experience is more of a shared device, correct? So there is no Hello.
Yeah, the intention of the device is kind of more for shared experiences, meaning I sign into it and connect to my cloud PC, and then I sign out, and then Alina can come into the device. There's no trace of me have been on the device. She signs in and lands on her cloud PC. And so because of that kind of focused intention initially, we didn't pursue Windows Hello at this time, given that kind of, because that's more of a dedicated device experience. So it kind of follows the pattern that even Alina laid out with boot to cloud. When Windows 11 boot to cloud is configured and shared, it kind of disables or does not allow the use of Windows Hello.
Cool. Yeah, it's really cool to take a step back and see all of these various technologies, because whether it's the physical device or whether it's the cloud PC, I love that we're being very cognizant of the use case and not adding things that don't make sense to it. Obviously we want to add features where they make sense. So, if there's feature requests from folks listening, we definitely want to hear those. But we want to make sure that experiences are curated to the scenarios of the personas at hand. Cool. Let's see. Another question we have, actually, let's stay on the Link topic for right now. How long will Windows 365 Link be supported? The OS security updates and driver security updates.
So I'm going to give probably a vague answer at this point, because these are also things that we're still even kind of finalizing and sussing out as part of entering our public preview and beyond. But I can say that, again, it's a Windows-based OS. So, and it has the same kind of core aspects of, let's say, Windows 11. And so it'll be supported to the same level, I'll say at least, that like Windows 11 in general is. In terms of like 2, 3, 5 years out, will there be some new version of the OS that completely eradicates the ability to use it on existing Link devices? Those haven't those level of plans haven't been fully sussed out yet, or at least to a point where we're ready to kind of like talk or disclose about them. But I guess rest assured, it is still a Windows-based OS. It leverages the same mechanisms for delivering updates. It follows the same processes, the Microsoft processes in general, that the rest of Windows 11 ecosystem follows. So so it's not like it's a one-off thing kind of hanging out on its own, if you will.
Yeah, I think. I mean, yeah, we're still in preview. Just launched. Okay, so this is
But
for.
sorry, I love the enthusiasm that you'll want to use it forever.
That's already a good signal. For Sam, what kind of reporting can we have for? I said shared Windows 365 PCs, so I'm going to say cloud PCs, in, frontline cloud PCs in shared mode. Are there alerts if we run out? Ideally, before that happens. What if we run out and a user tries to log in?
Yeah, really great question. So we have a report called concurrent connections for Frontline Cloud PC. You can find it in the Cloud PC performance report area. We've added shared mode to it as well. So it used to be the report that you can actually monitor the usage of Frontline PCs and the concurrency usage. And now you can also get data on your shared. We've added a bunch of features to it as well. Like we can show you, who was not able to log in. We can show you if you're, your patterns across 30 days, 60 days, across different collections that you may set up. So it's got a lot of really useful data that hopefully should allow you to see the pattern of usage and the number of cloud PCs that you should be given for a given group of users. Now, we also do have alerts for this. So you can set up an alert that allows you to, get an email, say if you wanted to say, I'm reaching 85% close to my max concurrency. You can set that threshold that you want to start receiving alerts on. So hopefully you can actually see that before it happens. And in terms of just, adjusting that as well, it's going to be really flexible and easy for you to adjust that. So you'll see if you look at the mechanics video that Christian has provided, that you can go back exactly to the provisioning policy and say, oh, I created 12 shared PCs for this group. I'm going to just increase that. I'm going to make it 15. And you can just click again, reprovision, and you'll be all set immediately. You can change the idle detection timeout policies as well if you wanted to make them more aggressive, less aggressive. We have a default essentially where we sign out users if they're idle about 30 minutes to 45 minutes in essentially. And it's up to you to change that if you would like. So there's a lot of really good options there, and hopefully that you will be able to enable before the user gets, potentially blocked. Now, to just answer the last part of the question, if you do run out and a user tries to log in, they're going to be told that they're not able to connect because of that. So we have a very specific error message, and they're going to be advised to, try to connect later. And you're going to get a notification on that, as well as who's the user who was not able to connect in that report that we're talking about.
And for the connection piece, are there specific requirements on the client side? Like, do we support all the clients right now for connecting to Frontline Shared, or is it just a subset right now?
So we support the Windows app essentially, primarily with Frontline. We don't support legacy remote desktop applications. So if you use the Windows app, whether that's on iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, you should be able to use it. Same on the website. I have received quite a few questions of folks trying to use it on the web and not seeing the cloud PCs. We have a new link that we've updated for our web client, essentially. And so I think we've documented this, but soon enough, we will be automatically converting that to be our default link. So I think some people are getting tripped up by that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because if you go to windows365.microsoft.com that was the previous client. And then at the very top, you'll see this banner that says, oh, we have a new app. And then you can click that one. And
Yes.
I forget if that's the Microsoft.cloud URL. I know that Microsoft.large is trying to move all services to use a Microsoft.cloud domain name.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Christian.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for the info there on the alerting stuff. Is the alerts also, I know that we have other alerts for other features within Windows 365, like Azure Network Connection. Is that where you go and set the alerts for the usage?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's in tenant administration in Intune, and you can set up different types of alerts. You can set up an alert for this. You can set up an alert for grace period, for example, if you've got users who are reaching grace period, network connections, as you said. So there's multiple alerts that you can set up and receive emails based on them.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely for folks listening, go and try that out and let us know. David Boulanger, it sounds like Clipboard redirection is a popular topic. Someone on Tech Community asked, can you make a comparison of the unidirectional Clipboard redirection for AVD in Windows 365 to that of someone using Azure Bastion?
Sure. I would say just quick comment. There's not really any difference between Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. I just wanted to make that clear. They're supported on both the same clients, and in both cases, you do configure them through group policies or Intune policies. And then you'll be able to, again, choose which direction you allow traffic to go on the clipboard for the different types of objects supported on that client, whether it's kind of text, images, or like more complex clipboard objects. Generally speaking, in Bastion, assuming in this case you're talking about the web version of Bastion where you connect in a website, that one is generally mostly limited to text, kind of basic text, and it obviously works just kind of on the website. So we did not work on specifically enabling kind of the unidirectional clipboard redirection there. So I don't think it would apply in Bastion. So Bastion remains unchanged from what it was previously from that perspective. And then if you use the other kind of Bastion to connect using just a remote desktop client, then you would just have the standard clipboard redirection that is kind of like on and off depending on the mix of the RDP properties or configuration in the remote desktop client and the group policy. I'd have to go confirm. I believe the unidirectional clipboard redirection was brought in specifically for AVD and Windows 365. I don't believe it applies to basic peer-to-peer connections or direct PC connections, but I'd have to go confirm that just to make sure.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I think that's probably just that last clarity, but no, I think that makes sense. Thanks, David. We have one question on Windows 365 Link. How does the licensing for Windows 365 Link work? So maybe it's both the Cloud PC itself and maybe some local OS licensing. Whoever wants to answer.
Yeah, I can take that question. So basically, the three things that you need to get Windows 365 Link to work is purchase the device, have management by your organization using Intune, and then you have to purchase a Windows 365 license for your Cloud PC. So if we're talking about, licensing to get Link to work, you would just go on the website to purchase a Windows 365 Cloud PC license with any SKU of your choice. And then that should work. Also, obviously we have Frontline and shared, so you might purchase a Frontline or a dedicated or shared license that's also supported today.
Perfect. Is there any Windows local license that we need, or that customers would need to procure?
Not separate from just purchase, would be purchase of the device. Once we get to GA.
Sounds good. Okay. And then maybe Lena, you mentioned we support enterprise, Frontline, in whichever mode, and then soon we'll be supporting business. Do we support like Microsoft DevBox at all?
At the moment, we are not formally supporting it, no. But something like, if people are interested, we'd love the feedback
Cool. Yeah, thanks for that clarification. Let's see. So question down here, read about bulk restore points for cloud PCs and saw there was a 5,000 limit. How should we think about when and how to use restore points since there is a limit? Sam, not sure if you have more context there.
A little bit. So, so the question is, how should you think about the limit of 5K? So just to be very clear, there is a restore point feature. You can enable that as an admin for the user. You can also enable that automatically. We take 14 restore points automatically and we store them. There's no limit on that part. That's just an automatic thing if you enable restore, right? The limit that we have is in a case that you actually need to restore back to a very specific point, which we've seen a lot of people having to do during the incident earlier this year around the security incident with CrowdStrike. What we've seen people do at that time is they're either enabling their users to do their own restore, or in some cases using a bulk action to do that. And so typically, actually, we have in Intune a limit of about 100 devices to be able to do an action on, and we've raised that limit to 5,000 for restore points. And so it doesn't mean that you can't do it for more. It just means that you may have to actually string together multiple actions on that. And so if you're doing that via, the Graph API, you could essentially do that 5,000 at a time. Or if you're doing it in the UI, it's going to allow you to essentially select 5,000 devices and do that. And obviously, a huge part of the reason why we have limits around these things is that we want to make sure that if a lot of people are doing this at the same time, we want to make sure that we're actually managing it in a way such that the service can fully handle that and have the quick, no latency ability to complete that action.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that description, Sam.
Yeah.
That was
actually something. Yeah, it's actually something a lot of people are excited about. Like the increase is the 5,000 is a really cool, much more scalable amount of devices, and would love to hear feedback of how that plays out in an organization.
Yeah. Also very related. For customers using Windows 365 today, please go and check your service health dashboard. I believe we posted an update on APIs for Graph that we will be deprecating moving off of. I think now we have a single bulk action API. And then within that call, you actually specify which action you want to take, as opposed to previously, we had individual actions for bulk. So please go take a look at your service health dashboard. We have been notifying folks if you do have applications, automations that leverage Graph APIs, we want to make sure you transition before those endpoints go dead. So please go do that. All right. One question is from Tech Community. Is there a laptop type harness or dock for the Windows 365 Link device? I realize it has the connections, but how to easily use it in the office in a dock, plug into a laptop harness, parentheses power and display for the ride home, and then dock at home office. So I guess it's kind of on that portability thing where I think we anticipate it to be stationary, but folks really love it.
Yes, I love the ingenuity of the question of like, I want to take this little device and make it mobile. There was a question I think earlier in the conversation, similar, but like specialized docks and things like that. Really, the biggest factor that may cause that not to work is any sort of specialized drivers needed on the Link OS to function or interact with the given dock. Because the Link will come with in-class or inbox class drivers, and that is it. We don't enable driver acquisition and things like that, or if there was any sort of specialized software that would be needed to administer. So depending on what sounds like a cool MacGyvering you got thought up there. It may or may not work. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say I think the best way to solve that would be to buy 2 of them and put one at the office and one at home. I will be frank and earnest. That's what I do. I have one at the office and one at home. Because besides just the link itself, just Windows 365 in general, I love that my desktop experience is disconnected from my device. So I can get to the state I'm used to of my desktop and where it's at, regardless of the device I'm on to get there. I've embraced so far as even if I go sit on the couch and watch some TV and want to do some stuff, I use the Windows app on my laptop to connect into my cloud PC.
Maybe I'm asking the obvious question, but is there a future, David Wells, for this link to support a more dedicated mode that maybe does have Windows Hello?
It is a question. You're the first to ask that. I joke. That has been definitely a question, and definitely something that we are interested in looking into and hearing that feedback resonates. And so it's something that we definitely want to learn more about on what people would even think about with regard to how a device like this in a mobile form factor as well as a dedicated scenario. So definitely want to hear more from the community about what they think in that space.
Perfect. Yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier, if you do have feedback, for any of the topics today, or specifically what we just talked about, maybe a more dedicated experience for the Windows 365 link, please send us the feedback, and you can do that at our ak.ms/w365 feedback. And David Wells will personally go look at it.
Personally, everyone.
Sure. All right. So we're at the end of the hour. Just want to say a big thank you for my awesome panel here. Thank you all. But also thank you for listening. We are coming back next year. So we will be back. Take a look at aka.ms/AMA/Windows 365. That will have the schedule of our upcoming AMAs as we kick off the new year. So for everyone on the call, again, thanks for spending your time here today. Hope you enjoy. If you just celebrate December holidays and the new year, hope you have a great celebration, a great time off. So thank you all. Thank you on behalf of our Windows in the Cloud team. So have a good one. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, folks.